Shalom, shalom. In today's video, I wanted to cover a mystery not necessarily pertaining to the Zohar or particularly to the Kabbalah, but is nonetheless in the sphere of Gnosis. And many Gnostics are familiar with this image. It was introduced by Eliphas Levi, mainly that of the Baphomet. If you've seen any of my prior videos, I did one in which I showcased this tome, and this is my 6th tome. And I'd like to cover a section from it to clarify in a short video this very important image. So, this is the Baphomet, and many are familiar with this image. To give some brief background history, and it first appeared mentioned in July 1098 in a letter by a crusader named Anselm of Ribamont. And it is quoted, he is quoted as saying, "As the next day dawned, they called loudly upon Baphomet. And we prayed silently in our hearts to God. Then we attacked and forced all of them outside of the city walls." Now, many have interpreted this as being mistranslation for the word Muhammad. So, October 13, 1307, Jacques de Molay and all of the Knights Templar are round up, and they are accused of heresy. And they were tortured into false confessions of worshipping an idol named Baphomet. And Jacques de Molay, the head of the order, was executed by being burned at the stake over the course of many hours. On March 18, 1314, this was carried out in Paris, France. And many of the legends of the Knights Templar are surrounding this image. So many years later, in the centuries after this, a gentleman named Eliphas Levi introduced this image, and he called it essentially the sum of nature. And inside of this image encapsulates many of the Kabbalistic principles that were known by the Gnostics at the time, and other Hermetic principles that were circulating around Europe, mainly as above, so below, the planes of correspondence, the Hermetic principle of gender, the Hermetic principle of polarity, and many different images like this. And this image, as you can see, is an encapsulation of all of that. But today's video is not necessarily on the image. I wanted to go into the actual meaning of this image. So, in this book, I gave a detailed discourse on the multiple attributes of it, but we're going to start off here. So it says, Baphomet, the second key comes from the understanding of its name and origin. To understand its meaning is to understand its purpose and occultic message. The name is of antiquity and developed as a code word for the divine wisdom, Sophia. The active fate as a divine form. The name was encrypted in days of antiquity by the mystery schools of the time. Baphomet. Now, this is an image called Atbash, mainly Aleph to Tav and then Tav to Aleph. And when using the words Baphomet, Bait is Shin, and Fe is Vav, and Mem is Yod, and Tav is Aleph, we get the word Sophia, like this. The name Baphomet appears through many cultures as well as ages. In all cases, the name is always a key to understanding its purpose and function. So here we see the name Baphomet being translated as Sophia when using Atbash. Moving along, we find it in Egyptian. In Egyptian hieroglyphics, we find the name Baphomet. in which Ba in Egyptian is soul, and Fa means to carry, and Mat is the rule of justice and truth the ancient Egyptians lived by. They lived by a system called Mat. So we see Baphomet in Egyptian. And moving into Greek, we see the word Baphometis, mainly Baphe, which is the root word for the word baptize, and metis, which is the system of metrics. And so we can see the word Baphometis meaning to baptize in the metrics. And most concealed of all is the word Baphomet and backwards. So this is the word Baphomet. And if we reverse it, we get Tem, OHP, and Ab. Mainly Templi for Tem, Hominis, Pasem, and then the final word, Abbas. Now, Templi means temple, Omnis is omniscient, Hominis is human, Pasem is peace, and Abbas means the Father. So, with all of this being said, I hope that any who are watching this video will have found some keys to understanding this image that has been used throughout antiquity and by different mystery schools for a different variety of reasons, and the erroneous conception of this being associated to Satanism, as it now is associated with mainly the Levian Church of Satanism and many other off-branches of that group that use this hermetic image as their icon of Satan. So, with that being said, Shalom Salah.